Actually, that's something to be very, very aware of. Yes, this can look all very cool and funky, but underneath all this, there's a whole lot of BMW going on. Some of the replacement parts can be astronomical when it comes to price.
Buying a new car is supposed to bring peace of mind. For most people, it's the guarantee that at least the first few years will be free of major headaches. After all, the modern car is expected to survive 100,000 miles before showing serious trouble. But not every model lived up to that promise. Some cars didn't just disappoint, they flat out betrayed their owners, breaking down long before the odometer even touched 30,000 miles. Engines seized, transmissions crumbled, and electrical systems went haywire, leaving people stranded and furious. These aren't just small hiccups, they're full-blown disasters. So, buckle up, because we're counting down the 13 cars that broke down before 30,000 miles. Number 13. Chrysler Sebring. The transmission trap. The Chrysler Sebring was meant to be an affordable, stylish mid-size option, but for many owners, it turned into a rolling headache before the odometer even had a chance to stretch its legs. Built through the early to mid-2000s, the Sebring carried a reputation for one of the most fragile transmissions in its class. Drivers reported slipping gears, sudden shudders, and outright failures, often before the car hit 30,000 miles. Imagine cruising on the highway, only to feel the gearbox jerk violently, then leave you crawling at a snail's pace. That wasn't just an occasional nightmare, it was far too common. And the problems didn't stop there. Electrical gremlins haunted owners, with dashboard lights flickering, power windows failing, and sensors misbehaving. Some reported engines that stalled unexpectedly, while others dealt with overheating issues far too early in the car's life. Repairs piled up, and warranties often didn't cover everything, leaving frustrated drivers with bills they never expected so soon. What made it worse was Chrysler's lack of refinement in the Sebring's overall design. Even when it was running properly, the ride was harsh, the cabin felt cheap, and reliability was anything but reassuring. The early breakdowns were just the final nail in the coffin for a car that was supposed to compete with reliable Japanese rivals but never came close. For many unlucky buyers, the Sebring didn't just lose value quickly, it lost its ability to even stay on the road. And when a car can't be trusted to last beyond 30,000 miles, it earns its place on this list without question. Number 12. Jeep Liberty, Off-Road. Name: On-Road Shame. The Jeep Liberty promised adventure. With its rugged styling and Jeep badge, it was marketed as the affordable SUV for people who wanted capability and confidence on and off the road. But for thousands of owners, reality came crashing down far earlier than expected. Before many Liberties even reached 30,000 miles, serious issues started to pile up. Issues no SUV should face so soon. One of the biggest culprits? The engine. Owners complained of oil leaks, overheating, and in some cases, complete engine failure. Add to that weak cylinder heads and timing chain problems, and you had a recipe for expensive breakdowns before the warranty even expired. Transmission failures were another common nightmare. Drivers described hard shifts, slipping gears, or total loss of drive, sometimes leaving them stranded on highways or in parking lots with barely any mileage on the clock. Suspension and steering weren't spared either. Premature wear on ball joints and control arms often caused clunks, vibrations, and unsafe handling. In fact, some components were so bad they triggered recalls, but even replacements didn't guarantee lasting fixes. The cruel irony of the Jeep Liberty is that while it wore the brand's off-road image proudly, many owners were lucky if theirs survived normal city driving without a breakdown. By the time word spread about the Liberty's reliability record, its reputation was beyond repair. And for those who bought one new, the dream of adventure often ended in a repair shop, long before the odometer hit 30K. Number 11. Dodge Journey, the family hauler that couldn't haul. On paper, the Dodge Journey sounded like the perfect answer for families who needed space and affordability. It offered 3 rows of seating, SUV styling, and plenty of features at a price that undercut most rivals. But in practice, it was a letdown so severe that many Journeys started giving up the ghost before even hitting 30,000 miles. For parents who just wanted a reliable family car, it was a disaster waiting to happen. The most notorious issue? Electrical failures. Owners frequently reported power locks that stopped working, infotainment systems that froze, and keyless entry systems that failed altogether. Sometimes the car wouldn't even start, leaving families stranded in parking lots. For a family-first vehicle, this level of unreliability was not just inconvenient, it was embarrassing. Then came transmission troubles. The Journey's automatic gearbox was plagued by hard shifts, hesitation, and, in too many cases, complete breakdowns. Drivers described terrifying moments where the car lost power while merging onto highways or stalling at intersections. Add in premature brake wear, coolant leaks, and fragile suspension components, and the Journey became a checklist of things that could go wrong early. For families, the disappointment stung even more. The Journey was supposed to be practical, safe, and dependable, but instead, it drained wallets with repairs most new car owners never expect to see so soon. By the time Dodge pulled the plug on the model, its reputation was ruined. The sad truth is that for many owners, their journey ended far too soon, sometimes before 30,000 miles. Number 10. Volkswagen Jetta, the gearbox gamble. The Volkswagen Jetta has long carried the image of a sensible, stylish European sedan at a price many Americans could afford. But for owners of mid-2000s Jettas, especially those equipped with Volkswagen's much-hyped DSG automatic transmission, the dream soured quickly. What should have been a smooth drive-in compact turned into a nightmare of early breakdowns, many of them happening before 30,000 miles. The DSG gearbox was billed as revolutionary, offering the quick shifts of a manual with the convenience of an automatic. In reality, it became a ticking time bomb. Owners reported harsh jerks, slipping between gears, or complete transmission failures that left the car immobile. Some drivers even experienced sudden loss of power while driving, an especially terrifying flaw in traffic or on the highway. Repair bills often ran into the thousands, and many cars needed new transmissions before their first major service interval. Beyond the gearbox, Jetta owners also faced problems with electrical systems, from faulty window regulators to malfunctioning sensors that triggered endless check engine lights. Turbocharged models brought their own issues: failing water pumps, coil packs, and timing components that often gave out far too early. Volkswagen's reputation for solid engineering took a hit with these failures, as frustrated owners found themselves making repeat trips to service centers with cars that were practically new. For many, the Jetta felt like a gamble. Would it be a reliable German sedan, or would it strand you on the side of the road before 30,000 miles? Too often, it was the latter. Number 9. Chevrolet Cruze, the compact catastrophe. When Chevrolet launched the Cruze in 2011, it was supposed to be the car that would prove American brands could build a reliable, efficient compact to rival Toyota and Honda. Instead, it turned into a rolling headache for thousands of owners, often breaking down long before it should have. In fact, many Cruzes didn't even make it to 30,000 miles before showing catastrophic issues. The most infamous problem was with the 1.4-liter turbo engine. Coolant system leaks were so common that owners often joked about carrying extra jugs of antifreeze in the trunk. Faulty water pumps, cracked reservoir tanks, and bad thermostat housings left engines overheating at shockingly low mileage. Left unchecked, these problems sometimes led to complete engine failure. Then came the transmission woes. Drivers complained of rough shifts, slipping gears, and total gearbox failures, all far too early in the car's life. Electrical gremlins added more frustration. Radios cutting out, power windows failing, and warning lights flickering without explanation. For many buyers, the Cruze felt less like a new car and more like an endless repair project. The disappointment was especially sharp because the Cruze was marketed as a global car, a cornerstone of GM's small car strategy. Instead, it became infamous for stranding owners with expensive problems before they had even finished paying off their loans. In the end, the Cruze never shook its reputation, and many who bought one swore they'd never trust GM's promises of small car quality again. Number 8. Mini Cooper, the quirky disaster. The Mini Cooper has always sold itself on charm. Its retro styling, go-kart handling, and cheeky personality made it a favorite for buyers who wanted something different from the usual compact car. But beneath that fun exterior, many Mini Coopers from the late 2000s and early 2010s were hiding some of the most frustrating reliability problems in the industry, many of which showed up long before 30,000 miles. The biggest offender was the timing chain. In theory, timing chains should last the life of the engine. In practice, Minis suffered from weak tensioners and poor design that caused chains to stretch, rattle, and eventually fail. And when they failed, they often destroyed the entire engine. Some owners reported catastrophic breakdowns before their car had even crossed 25,000 miles. Cooling system issues piled on top of that. Failing water pumps and leaking thermostats led to overheated engines and expensive repairs. Add to this fragile clutches in manual models, transmission issues in automatics, and endless electrical gremlins, and the quirky little hatchback quickly became a money pit. What made the Mini especially frustrating was its image. Buyers paid a premium price for what they thought was a premium small car. Instead, they got tow truck bills, repeat dealership visits, and parts failures that happened years earlier than they should have. Even basic things like window motors, door locks, and dashboard electronics proved unreliable. The Mini Cooper looked like a fun, carefree choice, but for many owners, the charm wore off around the same time the engine light came on, long before 30,000 miles. Underneath its cute personality, it was one of the most breakdown-prone cars of its time. Number 7. Kia Sorento, the engine that couldn't last. The Kia Sorento was marketed as a family-friendly SUV that mixed value with dependability. But for countless owners of early 2010s models, that promise collapsed well before the 30,000-mile mark. Instead of years of reliable service, they were met with one of the most infamous reliability disasters of the decade: catastrophic engine failure. At the heart of the issue was the 2.4-liter and 2.0-liter turbocharged engines, which suffered from metal debris left behind during the manufacturing process. That debris clogged oil passages, starved the engines of lubrication, and eventually led to seizures or rod knock. In many cases, the engines simply quit without warning, often while cruising on highways or pulling out into traffic. Imagine owning a nearly new SUV, only to have the engine give up before the second oil change. It was a nightmare scenario that played out for thousands of Sorento drivers. To make matters worse, replacement engines were costly, and many owners struggled to get repairs covered before Kia acknowledged the widespread issue. Eventually, massive recalls and even lawsuits followed, tarnishing Kia's reputation for years. But the damage to consumers had already been done. For many, the Sorento that was supposed to carry kids to school and families on road trips didn't even make it through its break-in period without a catastrophic breakdown. The Sorento's downfall wasn't a small quirk or an annoying electrical bug. It was total engine failure at shockingly low mileage. That's why it deserves its place on this list as one of the cars that let people down the fastest. Number 6. Ford Fiesta, the transmission time bomb. The Ford Fiesta was pitched as a fun, affordable small car for city drivers. It had sharp styling, a playful driving feel, and a low price tag that made it an easy choice for young buyers and first-time car owners. But under the surface was one of the most notorious mechanical disasters of the decade: the power shift automatic transmission. And for many unlucky owners, it started failing well before the car ever reached 30,000 miles. The power shift was supposed to combine the efficiency of a manual with the convenience of an automatic. Instead, it became a rolling headache. Owners reported shuddering starts, jerky gear changes, hesitation when accelerating, and in too many cases, complete failure of the transmission. Imagine pulling into traffic, pressing the gas, and having nothing happen. That was the terrifying reality for thousands of Fiesta drivers. The problems were so widespread that they sparked class action lawsuits and forced Ford into extended warranty programs. But even with repairs or replacements, many transmissions failed again, leaving drivers stranded in nearly new cars. Beyond the gearbox, the Fiesta also suffered from electrical quirks, faulty clutches, and interior components that wore out far too quickly. For people who bought the Fiesta expecting an affordable commuter, the reality was endless trips to the dealership, tow trucks, and repair bills they never should have faced so early. Some owners got rid of their cars after only a few years, swearing never to touch Ford again. The Fiesta may have looked fun, but under 30,000 miles, it was often more frustration than freedom. Number 5. Fiat 500. Small car, big problems. The Fiat 500 re-entered the American market in 2012 with plenty of buzz. Its retro styling, compact size, and European flair made it stand out from the crowd of bland commuter cars. But for many buyers, the charm wore off quickly, because the Fiat 500 turned out to be one of the least reliable small cars on the road, often failing long before 30,000 miles. One of the most common complaints involved the transmission. Both manual and automatic versions were plagued with issues. Automatics suffered from rough shifts, sudden failures, and clunky gear engagement that sometimes left drivers stranded. Manual owners weren't much luckier, with clutches burning out far earlier than expected. For a car marketed as fun and zippy, it often left its drivers feeling helpless on the side of the road. Electrical gremlins were everywhere. Dashboards lit up like Christmas trees with false warning lights, radios and infotainment systems cut out randomly, and power windows failed without reason. Even basics like door locks and sensors frequently stopped working. Add in premature suspension wear, fragile interior trim, and weak air conditioning systems, and the Fiat 500 became a rolling checklist of failures. What made it worse was that Fiat positioned the 500 as a stylish, premium, small car. Buyers were paying more than they would for a basic commuter, expecting European engineering. Instead, they got headaches, repeat dealership visits, and bills they never thought they'd face so soon after driving off the lot. For many, the 500 didn't even last through its warranty period without major problems. The Fiat 500 proved that small doesn't always mean simple. And when a car breaks down before 30,000 miles, its cuteness isn't enough to save it from being called what it really was: a disaster on wheels. Number 4. Nissan Altima, the CVT catastrophe. For years, the Nissan Altima was one of America's most popular sedans. It promised comfort, efficiency, and value, exactly what families and commuters were looking for. But for many unlucky owners of 2013 to 2017 models, the Altima turned into a nightmare before the odometer even hit 30,000 miles. The reason? Nissan's continuously variable transmission, CVT. On paper, CVTs were supposed to deliver smoother performance and better fuel economy. In practice, the Altima's CVT became infamous for failing early and often. Owners reported violent shuddering, hesitation when accelerating, and sudden loss of power in the middle of traffic. Some cars overheated on long drives, forcing them into limp mode, crawling at low speeds while other drivers flew past. And in too many cases, the transmissions simply gave up entirely, requiring full replacements long before most cars even needed their first brake job. The CVT issues weren't just minor annoyances. They were catastrophic failures that left cars undrivable. Worse, Nissan often dragged its feet on addressing complaints, leaving many owners stuck with huge repair bills or endless trips to the dealership. Even when transmissions were replaced under warranty, some of the new units failed again within a few thousand miles. Beyond the gearbox, Altima owners also dealt with weak suspension components, steering issues, and electrical gremlins. But it was the CVT that defined the car's downfall. What should have been a dependable family sedan instead became a gamble. Would your transmission make it past 30,000? Or would it leave you stranded on the side of the road? For countless owners, the answer was the latter. And that's why the Nissan Altima earns a high spot on this list of cars that broke down before they ever should have. Number 3. Dodge Dart, the modern flop. When Dodge revived the Dart nameplate in 2013, it was supposed to be a fresh, stylish compact that would compete with the Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla. Instead, it quickly gained a reputation as one of the most unreliable small cars of its era, often breaking down before 30,000 miles. For many buyers, what looked like a sleek, modern sedan turned out to be a headache from day one. The problems started under the hood. Dart owners frequently complained about engines stalling without warning, rough idling, and sudden loss of power. Some of these issues were traced back to poor fuel system components and weak sensors, but others were simply signs of a car that wasn't built to last. For unlucky drivers, the engine troubles escalated into full-on failures far earlier than anyone would expect. Then came the transmission nightmares. Equipped with Fiat-sourced dual-clutch gearboxes or 6-speed automatics, the Dart suffered from slipping, harsh shifting, and outright transmission breakdowns before most cars even needed their first major service. Add in electrical glitches, touch screens freezing, warning lights that wouldn't turn off, and keyless ignition failures, and the Dart quickly developed a reputation for being undependable. The worst part? Many buyers were drawn in by the Dart's promise of modern features and attractive styling at a budget-friendly price. Instead, they got a car that spent more time in repair shops than in their driveways. Dodge discontinued the Dart after just a few years, and its early breakdowns are a big reason why. For owners, the name Dart became ironic, because this car had a bad habit of missing the mark entirely. Number 2. Jeep Cherokee, the 9-speed nightmare. When Jeep relaunched the Cherokee in 2014, it carried a lot of hype. Here was a mid-size SUV wearing the legendary Jeep badge, blending rugged looks with modern features. But for many owners, the excitement turned to frustration almost immediately. The culprit was its brand-new ZF 9-speed automatic transmission, a piece of technology that turned out to be one of the most unreliable gearboxes of the decade. On paper, the 9-speed was supposed to improve fuel economy and deliver smooth shifts. In reality, it became a constant source of breakdowns. Owners reported jerky gear changes, hesitation when accelerating, and transmissions that slipped or failed completely before 30,000 miles. Some even described terrifying moments when the car would suddenly drop into neutral while driving at highway speeds, leaving them coasting helplessly in traffic. Software updates were rolled out to try to fix the problems, but they often only masked the symptoms temporarily. Even when transmissions were replaced under warranty, many failed again within a short time. On top of that, the Cherokee also suffered from electrical glitches, including faulty touchscreens and sensors that caused warning lights to flash constantly. What made things worse was the Jeep name. Buyers expected a dependable SUV capable of adventures, but instead, many were left stranded in nearly new vehicles. Lawsuits followed, and the Cherokee's reputation as one of the most failure-prone SUVs on the market stuck. The Cherokee was supposed to revive a classic nameplate, but instead, it reminded buyers that not all Jeeps are created equal. For many unlucky owners, their SUV didn't even make it past 30,000 miles before the nightmare began. Number 1. Hyundai Sonata, the engine failure epidemic. The Hyundai Sonata was supposed to be the car that proved Hyundai could stand toe-to-toe with Toyota and Honda. Sleek styling, good value, and long warranties made it a tempting buy for families and commuters alike. But for countless owners of 2011 to 2014 Sonatas, the honeymoon ended shockingly early, because these cars were plagued by one of the most widespread and catastrophic reliability issues of the decade: complete engine failure, often before 30,000 miles. The problem stemmed from defective manufacturing processes at Hyundai's US plant. Metal shavings and debris were left inside the engines during production, clogging vital oil passages. Without proper lubrication, engines would overheat, seize, or throw connecting rods through the block. Some owners reported their Sonatas shutting down suddenly at highway speeds, creating dangerous situations where they lost all power without warning. For a family sedan, this wasn't just inconvenient, It was terrifying. The failures were so common that they led to massive recalls, lawsuits, and a permanent stain on Hyundai's reputation. Even though the company extended warranties and offered replacement engines, the damage was already done. Many cars had already stranded their owners, sometimes multiple times, long before hitting even 30,000 miles. Beyond the engines, Sonatas also faced issues with weak suspensions, failing electrical systems, and premature wear on basic components. But it was the epidemic of seized and blown motors that defined this generation. Instead of delivering peace of mind, the Sonata left thousands of drivers dealing with tow trucks, repair bills, and broken trust. For a car meant to carry families safely and reliably, the reality was the exact opposite. That's why the Hyundai Sonata tops this list. It wasn't just unreliable, it became the poster child for cars that failed long before their time. Reliability is the one promise every new car should keep. Yet these 13 models broke it in spectacular fashion. From Chrysler's fragile transmissions to Hyundai's catastrophic engine failures, these vehicles showed that flashy styling and bold marketing can't hide fundamental flaws. For many owners, the breakdowns weren't just expensive, they were dangerous, stranding drivers and families long before 30,000 miles. The lesson is clear. Horsepower, comfort, and features may sell cars, but long-term trust is built on durability. These cautionary tales remind us that the true measure of a car isn't how it looks in the showroom, but how long it lasts once it leaves the lot.